Hey, what's up YouTube? It's ICU, and today Apple has released iOS 13 to the general public, and we're going to talk about jailbreaking, specifically what we can expect from jailbreaking moving forward, when we can kind of expect an iOS 13 jailbreak to be released, and for which devices. So this video has you covered everything jailbreak related we're going to talk about here and now, and also try to piece together, again, what we can expect. But for the TLDR, no, as of now, as of recording this video, there is not an iOS 13 jailbreak. Be sure to subscribe if you have yet to. We're going to keep you guys completely covered and fully filled in with every new jailbreak development as it unfolds, and we're also going to be first to have guides here on the channel. So subscribe if you have yet to, and then additionally, you guys can bookmark our iOS 13 jailbreak status checker page on Best Tech Info. It's the very first link down below in the description. It essentially will let you know the very second a new jailbreak for iOS 13 is out. When you visit that URL, it'll either say no, which is what it says now, since there is not an iOS 13 jailbreak, or once it is released, it will be replaced with a green yes, and all of the download links, instructions, and everything you need for a jailbreak will be posted there. So be sure to visit that URL, bookmark it, and you can check back regularly for updates. There will also be new information posted there. It's just much easier and much faster to actually update you guys that way than having to record and fully edit and push out a video through the traditional process. So while we will still update you guys here, that's the fastest and most expedient route, and that's how you're going to be updated more frequently. And as one last preface, this video is not going to feature any flashy graphics. I'm just here to deliver all of the information, analyze things, and let you guys know what the deal is. So with everything out of the way, let's get into this. As I said, there's not an iOS 13 jailbreak. The latest jailbreak is for iOS 12.4 in the form of Unc0ver and Chimera. And although no hacker has currently confirmed that they are working on an iOS 13 jailbreak utility intended for public release, there are in fact stirrings. Now first, to determine when we may expect the very first iOS 13 jailbreak, we must take a trip down memory lane. So I've gathered releases for the first jailbreak for major firmwares going back for the past 6 years. We're going to start backwards with iOS 6. So starting later, working our way up. So for iOS 6, Evasion was released for 6.1.2 on February 4th, 2013. For iOS 7, we had Evasion 7, which was released for 7.0.4 on December 22nd, 2013. For iOS 8, we started to enter the golden years when we had Pangu and Taiji enter the scene. Pangu was first for 8.1, which was released on October 31st, 2014. Remember, that was the first time we got a jailbreak for iOS 8 in general. And then Taiji issued a tool for 8.1.2 on November 29th, 2014, which was later updated to include support for 8.3 and 8.4. But then iOS 9 hit, and Pangu 9 for 9.1 was the first iOS 9 jailbreak, and it was issued on October 14th, 2015. And then in iOS 10, we entered the dark ages of jailbreaking. We didn't really get a legit jailbreak for the entire time, only Yalu in beta form, which had limited support and shaky stability. It was released late January 2017 for iOS 10.2, and of course there were previous versions, but that could really be considered the primary release. And then iOS 11 hit, and we got Electra from Coolstar and Unc0ver from Pwn to Own. Electra was first released for iOS 11.1.2 on February 26, 2018 with Cydia support. For the most part, Electra dominated the scene for iOS 11. And now for iOS 12, a recap of this last year. So, iOS 12 brought us Unc0ver and Chimera, which was a rebranded tool from Coolstar and the Electra team. Pwn was first with Unc0ver for iOS 12 through 12.1.2, which was released April 19th, 2019. So even though we do have 4 new jailbreak utilities this year, we actually didn't get a jailbreak for iOS 12 until much later than in years past. And we might see a similar thing this time around with iOS 13, so I really don't want to get your hopes up with any of the additional information that we're going to talk about in today's video. But let's go ahead and analyze these releases. So starting with the oldest first again, the release months are as follows for the first jailbreak for a major iOS version: February, December, October, October again, January, February, and April. All of this to say, don't expect a jailbreak right away. We will in fact get an iOS 13 jailbreak, of course, but it will take time. In fact, all recent jailbreak utilities have made use of kernel vulnerabilities that were already patched by the time they themselves were released. Taking a look at Unc0ver for iOS 12.1.2, it made use of an exploit Apple closed in iOS 12.1.3. So by the time Unc0ver was released, it was already targeting an outdated firmware. Jailbreakers do this so they can avoid having to spend countless extra hours researching kernel and other vulnerabilities. Don't get me wrong though, developing a jailbreak still takes hundreds of hours. Just reading through one of Pone's latest tweets that I talked about the other day, quote, "People underestimate the amount of work making a jailbreak takes, much less than research effort. Majority seem to assume it is as simple as installing Cydia files after running an exploit and don't realize the amount of work and complicated mechanisms they run on their devices." So analyzing all of that data, for the most part, I would be willing to bet that we would get a jailbreak anywhere from December all the way up until April, which remember, April of this last year, 2019, is when we got our first iOS 12 jailbreak. It didn't hit earlier than that, and we were in the dark for a little bit, but we've entered a resurgence in the world of jailbreaking thanks to those 4 jailbreak utilities that I previously mentioned. But the last installment, the iOS 12.4 jailbreak, was only really made possible because Apple inadvertently unpatched one of the exploits that they previously closed with iOS 12.3, which is just astonishing to me and a number of other individuals. That, in fact, was the last time a currently signed firmware was jailbroken, which is why I've spent so much time talking about the fact that jailbreak developers do indeed target outdated firmwares, because again, it saves time and so much headache for all of the reasons that I've already talked about. So this time around for iOS 13, what will most likely happen and what I expect to see is Google's Project Zero team and Ian Beer post their security research for something like iOS 13.1. They disclose very key kernel vulnerabilities to Apple, do an intense write-up as they usually do, and then we'll get a jailbreak post 13.1, maybe for something like 13.1.1 or 13.1.2, or heck, even 13.2. Apple seems really intent to push 13 along, especially since there's so many bugs with the first iteration, but that's all just speculation at this point. Just kind of giving you guys a loose time frame of when we can most likely expect a jailbreak. Now, as for A12 and A13, the chips in Apple's latest iDevices expect a jailbreak even later than the first iOS 13 jailbreak. Because starting with iOS 12, Apple implemented extra security measures making it much harder to jailbreak, and it all boils down to PAC. And Pone has a really nice summary of what PAC for A12 and up means for the layperson, which is basically anyone who's not a hacker. He said, quote, "It's funny to me that A12 would be significantly faster without PAC. PAC is an overhead for the system and slows down the devices for the sake of extra, quote, security." So there you go. Apple has intentionally gimped performance in favor of stability on their newer devices. Of course, though, it's no secret that Apple is a security-first company, but this just furthers how much more difficult an A12 and A13 jailbreak will be. Good news, though, is that Pone's PAC-less jailbreak technique should still work on iOS 13. It's just harder to implement, as he confirmed. He said the following in a tweet referencing another comment from hacker Jake James, who's a collaborator of his, quote, "For what it's worth, this is one of the reasons why I never considered brute forcing PAC and went to great lengths to achieve the same thing without it. iOS 13's updated PAC implementation makes my PAC workaround more challenging than before, but it absolutely doesn't, quote, patch it, which means that it should work on iOS 13, which is absolutely fantastic news. Of course, though, things do change in the world of jailbreaking with the blink of an eye, but as for A13, it's expected that while the devices have extra security mechanisms in place, PAC will still be Apple's primary shield when it does come to security. For what it's worth, ensuing the announcement of the iPhone 11 series lineup, Coolstar tweeted out, quote, "I guess A13 doesn't have MTE yet, just PAC. So we're unsure on the acronym. Coolstar seems to be under the assumption that A13 will not have any additional major security mechanisms over the A12 PAC, but I do say this, Apple will ensure that there are additional improvements made to PAC, and A13 could still be harder than A12 to jailbreak, but that's just what we know thus far. And quickly sharing a couple of iOS 13 specific jailbreak tweets and updates with you guys. A few months back on iOS 13 beta, IB Sparks actually tweeted out the following picture of an iPhone 10,4 jailbroken running Cydia. And 10,4, of course, is the identifier for the iPhone 8. Now, this was done with Luca Tedesco, and he himself has posted a number of updates around hacking iOS 13, including even 13.1, but we can't expect anything from him in the form of a public release, simply for the fact that he's out of the jailbreak game. He just flexes on a yearly basis at this point, and I don't want to talk about it too much or bash him in any way, shape, or form, other than just to say, don't expect a jailbreak from him. It's as simple as that. And really the only reason why I'm even talking about it is just to showcase that it can in fact be done, and that jailbreaking will continue to live on as always. Next, ZecOps posted the following the other day regarding iOS 12.4 and 12.4.1, and this is important because of one of the follow-ups that they said to this, but essentially they were saying that they do have bugs that could potentially lead to a jailbreak for iOS 12.4.1, which was, of course, the firmware Apple issued to patch the iOS 12.4 jailbreak. That's the only reason iOS 12.4.1 even exists in the first place. So someone asked them, well, what about iOS 13? And they said that, quote, worked in the beta, will check out the 13.0 version, will require additional porting anyway. So that's some good news. Who knows if anything will come of it, but that's the latest that we have specifically pertaining to iOS 13 jailbreaking right now as of recording this video. Now, I wanted to provide you guys with one final summary. We can expect a jailbreak after iOS 13.1 is released at some point. 13.0 is very buggy, and Apple even knows it. They already have 13.1 in beta stages, and in fact, they even did when iOS 13 was still in beta stages, and they certainly won't stop there. And I also wanted to say that not once in the last over 6 years has there been a jailbreak for the first public release of a firmware. Developers like to wait until there's stability on Apple's part first. This ensures that the jailbreak doesn't have glaring problems and also gives them additional time. Once an iOS 13 jailbreak is released, it will certainly support up to A11 at first. A13 and A12 jailbreak support will come in a subsequent update. Of that, we're almost 100% sure. Of course, though, in the world of jailbreaking, you can't be 100% sure until a tool drops, so I'm going to say 99% sure, unless something radical changes or new exploits are released, or heck, maybe there's even a new PAC bypass, or Pwn perfects his PAC-less bypass for iOS 13 and gets it updated quickly. And also, I wanted to say, in conclusion, jailbreaking is not dead. Far from it. As someone who's been a part of the jailbreak community since practically day one, I've seen people say as far back as iOS 6 that jailbreaking is dead. Of course, that's not the case at all. As I've highlighted throughout this video, there have been so many great tools from so many brilliant minds that have kept jailbreaking alive for years and will continue to do so into the future. Every year people say jailbreaking is dead. Every year they're proven wrong by great hackers across the world. So that's it for today's video, guys. Be sure to subscribe if you have yet to. That way you will be totally in the loop anytime there's anything new in the world of jailbreaking. And until next time, this is ICU signing out.